Hey everybody, it's Zach Miller from the Schmidt Music Saxophone Shop. Today I'm joined with Jody Espina, the president and founder of Jody Jazz. He's hanging out with us for the week here. We're doing some high school visits, working with some jazz bands. We were at the University of Minnesota. We're doing a clinic Wednesday night here at the store, and there'll probably be some clips of that you'll be able to watch as well. But Jody, I guess, welcome. Thanks so much for coming and hanging out with us this week.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having snow when I arrived.
Yeah, it's the first
Halloween.
day. Yeah, the first day we had snow, Jody flies in. So you're getting the real Minnesota treatment here. I guess if we just want to hop right into it, most of the time what I start off with is kind of what is your past as a saxophone player and how did you get into mouthpiece designing? Because they're two pretty different worlds, playing and designing.
Yes. Started when I was 12 playing clarinet. I wanted to play sax, but we had a clarinet in the house. Played clarinet in 7th grade. 8th grade, I worked all summer mowing lawns. I bought my own alto. It's terrible. And in 8th grade, so I played sax and clarinet all the way through. Picked up a flute around 15. By 15, I was gigging 3 nights a week, and I already had my plan. I wanted to go to Berklee College of Music and then go to New York and be a jazz musician.
Yeah.
And pretty much that's what I did. I just was, super focused. And I did that, and I was in New York playing and working as a successful musician. I never thought about mouthpieces. Mm-hmm. I'd buy a mouthpiece and play it for about 4 years or so and maybe find something else, but I wasn't searching. I really didn't know much about mouthpieces.
Yeah.
I went, this is in a TED Talk. If you Google Jody Espina and TED Talk, you can kind of find the backstory of how I got this company, what I started doing differently. But to cut all that out, I met a man named Santi Runyon, who was a mouthpiece maker, Runyon Mouthpieces. And he had been my boyhood teacher. Mm-hmm. So it was a really special meeting him. He's just an amazing guy. Again, the short story is that he mentored me in mouthpieces. It was his idea. He customized one of his mouthpieces for me, which is a reface. I had no idea that he'd be able to take a mouthpiece that was okay, but it wasn't just right for me. I told him, I can't play this mouthpiece anymore. He said, I'll reface it for you. Fly from New York to Louisiana. Mm-hmm. And I did that. And when he did it, it was amazing. I could not believe it. I said, I love this, Santi. And he said, okay, Jody, we can make that for you and call it Jody Jazz.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that's a stupid name. But I didn't say anything. I said, thank you very much. And I thought at that moment, that's neat. I have my name on a mouthpiece. I'll sell some to my students. And but I started thinking, wow, that was so cool how he did that, and I wanted to learn that, mm-hmm. and I wanted to take this mouthpiece and make an actual company with it. So from that early on, I just started thinking like that. How can I do this? He had done that by hand, and to get a bunch of mouthpieces like that mm-hmm. from their machine, these were molded mouthpieces. And to do that was not easy at all. And what was coming to me from their factory didn't match what he had made for me. So I was going down to the factory 7 times a year from New York City, and I'd work a week at a time. Mm-hmm. I would work with his crew, and then I would go hang out with him in the evening and try and learn, what I could from Santi. So that's how it started. And for many years, and I was in New York, I was getting mouthpieces made for me. And I was tweaking them to try and make them that standard. So I got a reputation for that quality control early on. And kind of the main thing that was the difference is I really wanted free-blowing mouthpiece. I wanted quick response. And I always wanted bottom in the sound. It's been one of the things that any mouthpiece I've designed, trying to, how bright it is or whatever it does, it's got to have a certain spectrum, which is a full spectrum.
Yeah.
So that's how that happened up until 2008. We started in 2000. 2008 is when we moved to Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, even just kind of at the beginning of your mouthpiece designing, the first couple mouthpieces that you were making, were they based off of anything, or were they kind of your own original ideas?
Sure.
And where do you get your ideas for mouthpieces? And I guess your original ones that you first started.
So the first one was a Runyon mouthpiece with this new facing on it.
Mm-hmm.
The second one, I asked Santi if I could prototype in his factory a metal mouthpiece. And it was based on one of his, but I changed the chamber.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where that one came from. It was a deeper, darker thing. It was called the ESP. And that first one was called, it was just Jody Jazz. And then when we made the ESP, we had to give the first one a name.
Yeah.
So we called it the Jody Jazz Classic.
Yeah, okay.
And those two are discontinued by now. So good mouthpieces. The first one I really designed from scratch was the DV.
Mm-hmm.
And the concept was, as a live player, you've got to play with a certain volume. You do a variety of gigs. You need some power sometimes. And most of those mouthpieces, to me, were shrill.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to play with that more bottom, with a more fullness, a more versatile mouthpiece. And I kept really thinking about it for 2 years. And as I was reading the Da Vinci Code novel, and it talked about the golden mean proportions found in nature. And I said in the Stradivarius violin and the human body, the dolphin, all these things conform to those proportions. So I said, what if I try this on a mouthpiece? And I took my ESP tenor mouthpiece, I measured it, divided by 1.618, which is this formula, and you get a proportion. And if you're designing a flyer or anything you're designing almost, you can use these proportions. Nature loves it. Nature makes this stuff. We love it. We love the shape of it and everything. And it's been used in music many times. So I did that. It led me to this secondary window of the DV, and I popped that in that ESP, and I got the Dexter Gordon barrel-chested thing. So that's the basis of the DV. Every proportion in it is made on that, and it's a super special mouthpiece. It changed our fortunes of the company right away.
Yeah. And that was your first
original design. And it wasn't coming from any other thing.
Yeah, in the perfect proportions. And you're still making it to this day. Soprano through Barry, there's hard rubber versions.
Even bass.
Yeah, that's cool. And
the hard rubber is new, HRDV, DVHR, which some people will just say, well, I'm a rubber player. What they're talking about really is the shape in the mouth, bigger. And so we finally brought it out in hard rubber, and it's a smash hit.
Yeah, they're fun pieces to play. And if you've never... I mean, I love playing. I'm a rock and roll pop player.
Yeah.
I love playing the DV pieces. They're easy to play, very free blowing, like you said. And we talked about before. You can almost play on a half a stiffness harder on your reed because they're so easy to play. And that also gives you a little bit deeper tone on those mouthpieces.
A little more harmonics.
Yeah. They feel really nice to play, and the consistency is. I mean, we'll talk about that when we get into manufacturing, but all the Jody pieces we get in seem to just be really top of the line. Kind of talking about manufacturing, you started in New York, you were there 2000 to 2008, and then you moved your whole project out to Georgia, where you still are today. What prompted you to make such a big move? Because you were a successful musician out in New York. You know, we talked about it, gigging, and it was happening for you, and the mouthpiece thing was also happening for you. What prompted you to kind of really go all in on Jody Jazz as a company and build your own factory where you're manufacturing your own mouthpieces?
So you would think it would be that way, that I did it because of the manufacturing, but I had this live-work loft in Tribeca, New York. It's like I was in my dream apartment after living all over the New York area. And I was in my dream apartment.
Yeah.
And I wasn't moving. I was never leaving New York.
And
I was having to have mouthpieces made for me. I was at the mercy of this. And it was quite frustrating. It was really, the consistency always drove me nuts. But
yeah, and almost at that point, you're refacing Mouthpieces.
we were working on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and you had 2 other guys working.
That time
for you?
I had a total of 5 people
Okay.
that came to work every day in my loft.
Yeah.
And but what happened? Like I said, I wasn't moving. I was going to just do that. It was easy in a way because I didn't have to have all these machines and all this total, But the move was a family move. My brother was in Savannah, and he said, we got to bring our mom to Savannah. She needs more care. And it was my girlfriend at the time. He said, you guys can start having kids. And so luckily she came with me, and we got married. We started having kids right away.
Yeah.
We took care of my mom. It was a family responsibility move. And then I did start building the factory. And that changed Jody Jazz a big way because I finally had control of my own destiny, of my own, quality control.
Yeah.
And over the years, we used a different technology than the companies I was using was molded technology. We used CNC technology from bar stock material and able to get much more consistent, really consistent. And, I could go on forever about all the discoveries we've made over time. But I'm obsessive about that quality. And that's why we got a reputation early on. But we're still, play test every mouthpiece we ever made.
Yeah. So as a manufacturer, how did you over time really dial in your consistency on your mouthpieces? Because I think for a lot of people, especially as a retailer, it's like pretty amazing. And I don't think a lot of people who are trying a whole bunch of mouthpieces realize, like, when you try Jody Jazz mouthpiece, it's like, it's going to play well, And how did you dial that in over time?
Yeah, a lot of trial and error because we're using our prime material is hard rubber. You can't look on YouTube and find out how to machine hard rubber. There's no charts with rates. We can find out how to machine brass and aluminum and any other material. So that's figuring out and the right tools and things, and it's called speeds and feeds. Here's people say, I'll make that mouthpiece in 5 minutes on a CNC machine. And I'm like, okay, but we take like 6-7 times that because we want it accurate. And the facing curve is the most important part of the mouthpiece, and we're like, the thing is barely moving. It's a very expensive machine, and I can sit there and go, God, it's costing me a lot of money. But it gets us what we want, and we make the mouthpiece 85% done, and then we're in with our handwork. And our handwork is really serious. When you look at our tip rail inside, look at that table, feel our table. Just pet it, and then feel the rail, the curve. Because I'm always in these shops, and I'm taking these mouthpieces, and I'm just talking to somebody, and I'm just going like this. I'm feeling that rail, and sometimes I'm feeling a little ridge where it starts to curve, and I'm feeling a little bump, and I know that curve doesn't work. So curve is like the little magic art of mouthpieces, and that's what's been great. And it also took me many machinists, and our machinist now for many years had an engineering degree, but he came from the back filing mouthpieces, so he really understands mouthpieces. And we have this partnership that's helped us make so many mouthpieces. And we prototype and fuss and agonize over it. So that's why I think we are what we are, because I'm still caring. I'm like a guy from the outside who got in the inside, and I'm still your advocate. I'm the player's advocate inside. I don't have contempt for the customer. So
Yeah, and we talked about this yesterday about how you have your benchmark
yeah,
mouthpieces that are what you consider to be, this was the best playing one that we've made, and they should all play like that. They should all play equally the same. And I think that's a cool idea that, you get your mouthpieces to a point, they're all hand finished, they're all play tested before they go out. And I think that's really cool, and I think that's important. When you want the reputation of your company to be as positive as it is, it's like it might take some time to get your mouthpiece when you order it, but that's because you guys are checking all the boxes, and you're making sure that when that mouthpiece gets to the customer, they're not going to want to send it back. It's going to be playing so well for them. And I admire that out of you guys.
and I think we're doing actually pretty good on delivery now. We have 25 employees now.
Yeah.
So we really try to stay slightly ahead of the curve, the growing thing. It's been.
I was gonna say that it's interesting too that you've gone from such a small production to, I'm guessing it's probably exponential business over time. How has that affected your ability to get mouthpieces in, and how many people you have on your team, and how you have them working on these mouthpieces, out in your factory?
Well, it's little by little. That's how it worked. And over the pandemic, we actually added 10 people over those couple of years, where most companies were shrinking, because business stayed good for us. But it takes about 6 months to be able to do some of these things, the fine operations by hand. And so we have a lot of practice mouthpieces. People can sand. Even the sanding of a mouthpiece, if you touch the table or the tip rail or anything, the curve, you ruin it. So even just sanding, it seems like it's not a very skilled operation, but it is. But nobody in our shop has ever heard "hurry up."
Yeah.
It's do it right, and and we have to pay them money, and so that's how we do it. It's like Duke Ellington. They asked him, "How do you keep that same sax section over these years?" He said, "I pay them money."
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have a great team of people.
Great team
working behind you.
So that's what people thank me about the mouthpiece, and I'm going to say, it's this whole team that's really good. I really love them. I have so much confidence in them, and proud of what they do.
Yeah, and you trust them enough for them to put your name on the work that they're doing, and I mean that's a lot of trust in your employees. I think that's cool. Maybe moving forward to the next topic, kind of just talking about how do you choose a mouthpiece. And I think for a lot of middle schoolers, high schoolers, or high school band directors, or even some college players, I often get like, well, I'm here to pick my first new mouthpiece. How do I do it? And it's like, well, are you playing in concert band or are you playing in jazz band? And that's kind of like the first differentiator of mouthpieces. What does Jody Jazz offer kind of in that first stepping up into your first mouthpiece? Nice mouthpiece.
Well, let me preface it by saying, your technique coming to try something, and that, this is the first time I've been to Schmidt Music. It's one of the most beautiful shops in the world, and it's really well stocked. You could sit here all day and never choose anything because there's so much to try. So I just bought a neck from you guys, the Lake City neck, unlacquered, because it just works so nicely. How long did it take me I was choosing among 5 necks and comparing it with my own. How long did that take me?
Probably around an hour.
No way. It was 15 minutes.
You think it was quicker than that?
It was, yes.
I was in and out of the room.
It was super quick. It was less than 15 minutes, but probably because I've been doing it so long, I know. Mm-hmm. But the idea is you don't play the history of music on the first mouthpiece you try. because this is what happens. People come to the factory, I put 6 mouthpieces out for them. The first mouthpiece plays so good, they're playing for an hour. They all play good. You got to go through. So play a little bit and then play the same thing a little bit, a minute, because you want to get through and rule stuff out. Okay, so and I'll talk about our specific models. Let's say it's your first jazz mouthpiece. Okay, and you want to get, I think you want to get the competitors, maybe 2 other competitors, and try those models that you guys recommend to them. What I'll recommend is your first jazz mouthpiece to everybody is our HR Star. And but I wanted to do, like, people say, well, what's the difference? Why do I need a jazz mouthpiece? Okay, so Jody Jazz also, I bought Rousseau mouthpieces. Dr. Rousseau was right here from the University of Minneapolis. And great mouthpieces. He called me up and said, I'm retiring, do you want to buy it? And we have worked very hard bringing these great mouthpieces to their, like, my quality, my thing.
I studied with Dr. Rousseau in college.
That's cool.
I played on his NC4. I'm pretty sure my parents just bought it somewhere on the internet. I got lucky and my NC4 played super well, but I know for Rousseau mouthpieces, before you bought them, where they were getting manufactured, the consistency of the mouthpieces was not great, and it was like, well, if you're going to try them, try as many as you can, and then pick the one that you want to buy. So I feel like I won the lottery when my parents just bought me one. But now that you're manufacturing the Rousseau mouthpieces, it's like, it's nice, you come to our store, you can still try 4 or 5, and it's like you said, it's like you're probably going to like all of them. They're all going to play well. What one sounds and feels the most comfortable to you. And that's the nice thing, is like you could walk away with any of them. Before you bought Rousseau, it's like make sure you play all of them and then choose the one that really feels good. And so you've really brought the reputation of those Rousseau mouthpieces up.
And they are great. And I wanted to just do that difference between the sound. The basic deal is a classical mouthpiece, or the mouthpiece, the first mouthpiece that you get in the case. We call it stock mouthpiece. It's designed to have a sound that blends with the clarinets and the flutes. And that's the classical sound. And what's happening is inside the mouthpiece, it's a bigger chamber, and there's various styles to shape the sound, but it's that warmer, darker sound. When we get in a jazz band, I always joke, and I have a poster made by this, it's showing the jazz band in the morning in concert band, and the band director is saying, saxophones, it's too loud. And then in the afternoon, they're in jazz band, and he's with the same mouthpieces. He's going, saxophones, come on, I can't hear you. So in jazz or popular music, we need more volume. We need a kind of a brighter sound. So when inside the mouthpiece, we make the chamber smaller. So there's less empty space in there. That makes a louder, brighter mouthpiece. That's the main difference. And it really, you'll hear, it can be quite a bit different. So this is our Rousseau Classic R Series, 4R, which I think is one of the best mouthpieces for concert band. And if you try it back to back among the other big competitors, I think we have the warmest, beautiful sound, and it's very easy to play. Okay, so that's a more or less basic classical sound. I'm going to play my HR Star alto, 6M is the most popular tip. Somebody who practices a little less, plays less than 4 hours, I'd recommend a 5. I'd recommend a 6 for anybody who practices more, and only going higher, like to a 7, if that's what feels better. And I'll talk about that in 1 second.
Yep.
So here's that with a softer reed, by the way, because this is a 4-tip opening, the Rousseau, and this is a 6, or actually this one is a 7. It's a bigger distance between the reed and the mouthpiece. The reed has to go further, like this. So we use a softer reed. It also gives us this buzzier sound. And guys, when you're placing your reed, it's super important exactly where it is. We kind of want to match that mouthpiece like that, but a little down from the tip, it'll play softer. Higher than the tip, it'll play harder. So when your reed starts needing replacing and you don't have one, just put it a little higher. You can get a little time out of it.
It's really important that, and you're doing it right now, you're showing them when the reed is pressed to the mouthpiece where it lines up, and not where the reed is sitting out, because it's a little bit of an optical illusion.
Exactly.
If your reed is sitting this far out and then you push it down, you got a whole bunch of distance up there.
That's right.
So you got to make sure that when it's pressed down to the mouthpiece, it's lining up with the tip, or down or up, depending on where you want it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, in a perfect world, you would edit this to where you played that classical sound again, right now. And then I play this. Okay? So here's this. I mean, I think if you hear them back to back, it's night and day, right?
Yeah.
If I played this in concert band, I would be kicked out immediately. Get out of here. If I played this in jazz band, I would be like, come on. Especially if I was playing lead alto or something. Come on, we got to get some sound.
Yep.
We got those brass guys blasting. The drummer is,
Yeah.
We have an electric guitar. Forget about it.
Yeah.
And
often in jazz band, you're not mic'd up. You need to be able to keep up with the brass instruments.
Yeah.
And those classical mouthpieces sound and they feel great, but they're not going to give you the punch and the power and the cut that something like your HRs do.
And we want it to be versatile. Versatile, easy, like we said, free blowing, a good facing curve, the right amount of material near the tip rail. A thin tip rail makes this fast response. And when I was in the loft in Manhattan, everybody came in, had these vintage mouthpieces that had been worked on and stuff that were playing really good. And I asked to play every mouthpiece that came through there. And they were all super free blowing. So it's this just welcoming feel.
Yeah. I always tell people when they're trying mouthpieces, I'm like, your setup should be so easy to play that you don't have to think about how you're playing your mouthpiece. You can think about how you sound and the phrasing that you're doing. Like, it should be the sound should just come so naturally. And that is a big concept behind your mouthpieces, is that they're easy to play.
Yeah, we're trying to get you to forget about it so you can concentrate on the music.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so, if you're looking to step up into your first mouthpiece, kind of unfortunately in the saxophone world, it's like you got to think about where you're playing. In a lot of other instrument categories, if you're a clarinet player, they have jazz clarinet mouthpieces, but a lot of clarinet players, when you're stepping up, it's like, well, I'm in high school and I'm playing in concert band because that's where clarinets play. I need a classical clarinet mouthpiece. And in the saxophone world, we start pretty early playing in concert band, and in Minnesota, it's like 7th, 8th grade. You can start playing in jazz band too, and they're two very different worlds where you need two very different sounds. And these Jody mouthpieces are a great step up if you need just your first mouthpiece in either of those two worlds.
And I want to make sure that we talk about this. The mouthpiece that comes in the case, we call that a stock mouthpiece, and many of them don't work well. When we have a mouthpiece, we want to seal so that if it's manufactured properly, the table is flat and the rails go down at the same time, the tip rail is good. When you close off the mouthpiece and take the air out, by sucking the air out, you should get a pop. So you hear that pop. That tells me that the reed is sealing with the mouthpiece. And if you do that and you don't get that pop, it's like your horn is leaking. Sometimes it could be the reed is warped, but it's either the reed is warped or the mouthpiece. So try some other reeds. If you can never get it, your mouthpiece is malformed. And if you feel like you can't get your low notes, that probably is it. So that's a terrible thing that can happen to somebody, and their career is sabotaged from the beginning. So educators, please play the student's equipment. Student, have somebody who can play all your equipment, including your reed. The reed is just as important as the mouthpiece. Those are the two most important things about your sound. That's where it begins, besides you.
Yeah, it's funny. People come in here, and on the weekend, we don't always have a repair person here on hand all the time, 24/7. They have to have days off, too. People come in like, my saxophone's not working. I'm like, well, let me see it. It's like, oh, well, your octave key's a little bent. Or it's like, your saxophone's playing fine. Let me hear you on your mouthpiece. It's like, oh, your reed is chipped. Or like, look at your mouthpiece, you know? There's a lot of little things that can go wrong. So having someone check over your beginner stuff is a good idea. Sometimes people ask, like, is better equipment really going to solve all of my issues? And what is your take on that?
Well, of course, it's not going to solve all your issues if you have issues. But I started playing golf about a year ago for the first time. And as a new person, I know nothing. I'm learning everything. I had these clubs that I got a whole set for $80. It's like, and then after I'm intense about it. I'm practicing like a musician. I'm approaching it. I'm shedding. I'm practicing, and I'm really into this learning something new. But it connects me to the amateur musician, sax player or something. What problems you have, what you don't know about equipment, is it going to help me or not? So after I was playing for about 6 months, I went to this place and had them like fit me for clubs and stuff.
Yeah.
It made a huge difference. And more than that, I know now that my equipment is not holding me back, and it's just me, and I'm just going. So I don't want to wait too long, and especially if you have something that's playing terrible. People all the time come up and they play our stuff and they go, oh, I should have done this so long ago.
Yeah.
So it's never too soon if your stuff is not working right. If you have, for example, a Yamaha 4C, a lot of people play, I think that's a well-made mouthpiece. It's not going to get you the sound, ultimately, I think, that you want. You're going to get, even from this, like the Rousseau Classic R Series, you're going to get this more beautiful, warmer sound right away. But it's okay to begin on that, 6 months or so, or a year, and then get into something if you can. You really can. It's going to, and try them. Choose, judge for yourself.
Yeah.
Does it make a difference or not?
Yeah.
So
we kind of covered that first step in the mouthpiece world. Kind of your first classical mouthpiece, your first jazz mouthpiece. And that gets a lot of people covered for quite a while. And there's some people who are hobbyists that could play on that HR Star their whole life. There's professionals out there that are playing on these pieces.
Professional mouthpiece.
And the crazy thing in the saxophone world is like jazz mouthpieces can, go $150 up to like $700, $800, $900. If you're looking at vintage mouthpieces, even more. These in the grand scheme are
well priced
mouthpieces. It's like the bang for your buck is really there. They're definitely, if you're looking for your first jazz or classical mouthpiece, worth throwing them in and having people try them. It's like they are worth the try and they are worth the money for sure. Maybe moving past that, Jody Jazz is founded in jazz music. You have a whole lineup of jazz mouthpieces that kind of span kind of straight ahead jazz to, more extreme mouthpieces. Maybe you can dive into some of these other mouthpieces that you've designed and talk about them, and maybe we can get some playing examples. Yeah, what are all these mouthpieces that you have hanging out here? And
what I would do is try and have people look at under jodyjazz.com resources, take a look at our comparative facing charts when you start to zero in on something. But the best chart on there is under resources, tone comparison.
Yeah, we'll throw that up right here as we're talking about it.
So then you see all the mouthpieces from bright to dark. And I think we start brightest, Superjet, and darkest, maybe the DV New York or the Custom Dark. And these mouthpieces live in kind of families together, like the Jet and the Superjet live together. They're on the bright side. Bright means louder and cutting more. So you're going to play that typically in rock, popular music, where the band is loud and you really just, it's terrible when the band is so loud and your mic, you don't have a monitor, you can't hear yourself. It feels like you're playing in a closet or something. You need that mouthpiece that's going to let you soar over the top.
Yeah.
In addition, some people make a mouthpiece darker, the way they play or the way their mouth is. Some people make it brighter. So all these different mouthpieces are for all these different people and all different styles of music.
I always tell people it's like choosing your favorite flavor of ice cream. Like, these all taste great. You kind of have to come in and try and make that decision about what flavor you like the most.
Yep. So I'll give you I'll start with that HR star again, because that's usually when somebody wants to try something if they're right in front of me. I'm going to say, let's start there and see where you want to go from there.
Yeah. Because
it's a great start. So I'll blow that, and then next I'll go to same priced mouthpiece, the Jet. Here's the HR star. Okay.
Where did you get the name for the Jet mouthpieces?
It's always hard to name something.
Yeah.
And we're usually kicking around a bunch of stuff. I just thought the Jet conveyed the speed of the air. And we've kind of put this logo on the side. So I don't know. It's
like a jet propeller. I mean, you'll hear it when you play. This mouthpiece, it gets your air moving.
So, and it's nice. But again, it's not so extreme. When you look inside and you see a pretty small chamber in there, it looks like it's going to be really extreme, but it's not so extreme. Again, I really struggled. The real work on this one was keeping the bottom.
Yeah.
And it's quite a nice mouthpiece. HR Star is number one seller. This is neck and neck almost. It's a little under. This would be the HR Star would be the easiest transition from a classical mouthpiece.
Mm-hmm.
This has got a shorter facing curve, which means the curve starts closer to the tip.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps the higher notes come out stronger, and especially the altissimo.
Takes a little bit more control.
Probably does.
Yeah.
And a little bit, but not much. And that's another thing just to cover so we don't forget, tip openings. Often we say, well, if you're not practicing much, you got to stay at the small tip opening. If you practice a lot, you can play any tip opening you want. But what people don't talk about is where the break occurs on the mouthpiece. This is really important to if you'll like that tip opening or not. So in a traditional curve, the smaller tip opening starts closer to the tip, and as I make a bigger tip opening, I start the curve further down,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's time to do a bigger curve. So depending on how much mouthpiece you take in your mouth, you want to find that right place where your teeth are going, and it works just with that facing curve. So that's why some people like a 5 and some people like a 7. I like a 7. I can play any of these. Of course, I can because I've designed them all. I designed an 11 mouthpiece, and I have to sit with that for months and know how to play it, how to love it. Same with a 4.
Yeah.
I put the right reed with it, and I dive into that world, and I live in it. I can play any tip opening, but when I just go play, that 7 works really well for me. It's kind of a mouthpiece I take in.
Yeah.
So that's an important part. You don't worry about it. If you find the model you like, the sound and everything, if you can play 3 tip openings, just play them without even knowing what they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're talking too about, how the different tip openings, you design them in a way that they should sound and feel pretty similar. You get the right read. It's like you should be able to get the same thing out of these different tip openings,
And the reason traditionally you don't molded mouthpieces, and maybe other manufacturers, but molded mouthpieces, it's all the same mold for all the tip openings. And so as it gets bigger and bigger, you're actually having a bigger chamber. The mouthpiece gets darker. And when it's smaller and smaller, the mouthpiece gets brighter. And that people who played a lot of mouthpieces know that.
Yeah.
What I do is go in and I adjust that floor. Some people call that whole floor the baffle. I adjust it. So the bigger the tip opening, I'm bringing it up a little bit so we have the same sound. Mm-hmm. So if you have an HR Star, 10 Star, or 5, it's going to sound very similar because I've made those adjustments.
Yeah.
So we did the HR Star, the Jet, and then let's see. I'd like to go to the brighter side of things first. Let's go to the DV.
Yeah.
DV was super special. We talked about it a minute ago.
Mm-hmm. First mouthpiece, your original design.
Mm-hmm. Let's see now. I like to optimize each mouthpiece with a reed because, like you mentioned, the DV can take a harder reed. It blows so freely.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a patent in this mouthpiece.
Yeah, we can show it on the screen too, but that you're talking about.
It's got the secondary window.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the patent. All the proportions are in this golden mean. So this is the DV. I say a mouthpiece is sound and feel in equal parts. So you can hear this, but you can't feel it. To feel it is a whole other thing, and you just go, oh, people go, wow. because it plays so nice and so fluid, so easy.
Mm-hmm.
So the DVHR actually is new, and I made it. It's got very same approach, but the hard rubber, just by its nature, it opens your mouth because it's bigger.
Yeah.
That makes it darker. The material is softer than metal. It makes it a little darker.
Yep. And I know profile is a big thing for a lot of players.
Mm-hmm.
How
it
and
feels.
sometimes that slim profile of the DV for some people is like, it takes some time to get used to, you know?
Could be.
This HR provides a different profile on the same design, which is nice.
Yeah. So it's free blowing. It's got that bottom that DVs have. And I let it be just a tad darker too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use the same reed I was just using. A reed can really change your sound. If you want a darker sound, use a harder reed. Kind of a brighter sound, use a softer. That's a little soft, but...
Yeah. You came at the worst time when came from warm weather and now it's cold here, and reeds in Minnesota are all over the place.
Yeah, I get calls in the winter. Oh, my mouthpiece is messed up. Did you drop it? No. How are your reeds? I guess they're okay. I tried 3. Well, go get another box at a different brand and try them and call me back. It was the reed.
Yeah.
Because it happened to me. Like
Yeah.
I remember in the 90s, I was all ready to either buy a new horn or a new mouthpiece or something. I was freaking out
Yeah.
for a couple weeks. And I had tried all the reeds in a box. None of them were working. I finally went through my old reeds and I put a reed on and said, oh. I was just having winter problems. I was in New York.
Yeah.
That radiator heat was coming on.
Yep.
What is this? DVHR. Again, you got to try these things. Kind of, it's my current favorite.
Yeah.
Although I'm torn between the DV and this one.
I was gonna say, you've been playing on the metal DV for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going brighter, there's a Superjet over here. Now, I love the power ring, so I'm always going to put a power ring on if I have one. But I'm going to leave this here for a second. Guys, if a reed ever warps up like this, don't play it. I don't know if you can see this, but take it like this on the table. Be careful with it, and massage it away from the tip until it's straight. Because it's going to sound terrible until it's straight.
It's gonna feel hard to play too.
Yeah. We could have a whole podcast, part 3, 4 parts on reeds.
We could have reed horror stories. It'd be Halloween themed.
This has got a lot of power. It's also very free blowing, and it still has bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I played this on a tour in Asia, and I've had several countries, and my last thing was in Thailand, and I was in a hotel lobby playing with a piano player. I played this for 2 weeks, and I was cool. Right now,
Yeah.
it feels a little bright to do a pretty ballad, but by then I had it dialed in, and it was great. It was great to have, like, this is a Ferrari or a Lamborghini with a big engine, power, all the power I need.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's what you need, I think this is one of the best choices out there because of how free blowing it is and how much total spectrum it has, not just highs. So very fun to play.
Yeah.
At this time, our brightest mouthpiece.
Yeah. At this time.
Yeah. I wanted to kind of do that. And then I wanted to put a power ring on. And there again is like this sound and feel thing. I don't know if you can hear it or not.
Mm-hmm.
You can?
I can.
Yeah.
Hopefully the microphone's picking it up like we're picking it
well,
up in the room
hopefully
here.
Your computer speakers or your iPhone,
Yeah.
if you're listening through headphones, you might have it.
Yeah.
But there's a difference, and I encourage people to check out Power Ring.
Yeah.
We make one that fits a lot of hard river altos. It's
Yep.
called the AS1, Alto Sax 1.
Yeah.
Fits a lot of brands, but try one if you get a chance.
So what's the idea behind the power ring? Because on a
good question.
normal ligature, ligatures are generally touching a lot of the reed on the bottom, and that does affect how your mouthpiece responds and plays. It's, in the grand scheme of what affects your saxophone playing, ligatures, one of the smaller ones. To a lot of pro players, a ligature can make a pretty big difference in how something feels and sounds.
Yeah.
And what's different about the power ring compared to more standard ligatures?
Yeah. And I've heard many guys say this is a game changer. Game changer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's different is it's heavy. Okay, it's solid brass. It's heavy. That's one thing. Mass changes how these things play. In other words, a lot of material, the amount of material.
Mm-hmm.
Inside, it's kind of concave, so it curves away from the reed.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, we're touching the reed on 4 points,
Mm-hmm.
and we're touching the top of the mouthpiece on 2 points. So that's how it allows the reed to vibrate differently.
Yeah.
And the reed vibrates really well, and the mass, I believe, gives more body to the sound.
So it's a little more free-blowing, but that weight of it gives it a little bit more heft.
I think that's exactly it. And I just tried with Derek some other stuff in there.
Yeah.
Some high-priced ligatures.
Yep.
And we did very well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And again, a lot of it's like what works well for people. And you kind of have to come in and try this stuff out to really get a feel for how it's responding with you.
So we've talked about the bright spectrum now, and let's go to 2 dark mouthpieces.
Yeah.
Not everybody wants to sound bright, and they want the beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started to make this mouthpiece, the custom dark, I had been playing the DV, so the custom dark felt real dark to me. And what I did was I put that, I forget what it's called. It's a sound reflector. It's this,
Kind of the jazz lab reflectors.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And I put that on the bell, and I was able to, it puts the sound right back in your face.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to relax and really groove and really get into the beauty of that sound that was coming, and it was right there. And after a couple of weeks, I was just in that zone, and I wasn't missing that loudness and that highness.
Yeah.
So I play 7s, I said, but on this one, the chamber is so big, I play a 6.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of a common thing. Every time you put a mouthpiece on, you don't know where it's going to tune, because these are all different chambers and stuff. You need to take your tuner. I kind of want to do that in this session, but I'm just not. But I want to fine tune each one. Don't play a bunch on a mouthpiece and then realize you're way flat, because actually the notes don't come out as well.
Mm-hmm.
Get in tune first on a note. Don't go crazy about the intonation, but just get in the ballpark and then play.
Yeah, your saxophone and your mouthpiece will respond way better when it's all in tune.
Now, let's see. I don't even know. I had to read especially for this. When I play, anyway, when I play the Custom Dark and the DV New York, I have a thing in mind, a sound in mind that's more Stan Getz, Paul Desmond,
Yeah.
a lot of times. And so sometimes I use a harder reed
Yeah.
to put more air into it. But I think this is the wrong. I need that one. Okay.
Yeah. Something I notice about all your mouthpieces is you get like that low end, and it sounds similar on a lot of these mouthpieces. You can get that nice low end sound, and you're getting that color, but they all have their own kind of different flavor of sound across the board. And you're getting that smoky airiness out of this mouthpiece.
And if I wanted to get a little more airiness, I'd take this reed and go a little higher than the tip. And now, at the same breath, Mike Burton, who's playing with Usher now, he plays with Patti LaBelle and Jill Scott. He's a very working musician out of Atlanta. He went to this on his horns. Jeff Kashiwa, who played with Rippingtons, and he plays with special effects and different. He's known kind of in that smooth jazz world. He went to all his horns on the Custom Dark and his soprano. Kirk Whalen moved to his soprano. Jeff Coffin with Dave Matthews is coming Monday to the factory to get his backup Custom Dark soprano. Love him. Tom Scott's playing a Custom Dark soprano. So it's funny on the soprano thing how these more contemporary players are just loving this super dark thing. Probably because soprano is bright on its own.
Yeah, it's that balancing act.
But like Mike Burton, for example, he really pushes the brightness on it.
Yeah.
But he had kept talking to me, and it's like they got this in-ear monitors on one of his gigs, and he was like, "It sounds too bright," and because his situation was changing, so we were going darker, and we came up with this that did it. So that is. I'm loving this right now. I'm like, I don't know. I think I'm gonna go to this mouthpiece right now.
Yeah.
And then it would be the DV New York, which would be in a similar, sound zone. But where's that? Okay. But it's different because it's metal. It's different because how it blows. Is it brighter? I think it is.
It's got a different.
Yeah.
It's got a different color to the sound.
Yeah. It plays so nice. You can play all the same things. You can. I think I can get a little brighter on it.
It's a little more clear too.
Yes. Yeah. And that has to do with this particular reed is like a little bit hard on that Custom Dark. Not hard, but a little bit on the edge of hard. It's just right on this because it's got these thin side rails and tip rail. It blows so freely. So that's like a perfect match there.
Yeah.
Boy, I love these mouthpieces.
Yeah. Well, I would hope so that you love your own mouthpieces.
I do.
And it's like there's a flavor out there for just about everybody, especially since you've picked up the Rousseau line. It's like now you got great classical mouthpieces. You work in Shedville in the clarinet mouthpieces, and that's a great project that you started on the side too. I mean, is that something you want to hop into now, or do you want to talk a little about the future of Jody Jazz Mouthpieces and then hop into a little Shedville?
Well, just that Shedville was a famous company from the 20s, and with this special rubber, those clarinet mouthpieces, vintage Shedvilles, are very valuable or cost a lot of money. And we took this and are trying to actually make it this legendary company.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's kind of like Rousseau, and we have some collaborations happening with some of the top. Just stuff's coming out. Just check us out. It's serious, and we have great clarinet mouthpieces, bass clarinet. As far as Jody Jazz, we did the hand hammered on tenor.
That was what, year
About
and a half
a year ago. Yeah, and that first one was in rose gold, limited edition 300.
Yeah.
It sold out. But now we're doing it in gold, and selling it not a limited edition.
Yeah.
It's really, really heavy.
And where did you get your idea for the hand hammered?
I'd like to say it was my idea, but it wasn't. Our vice president of sales and marketing is Colin Schofield, and he worked 20 years for Zildjian Cymbals.
Yeah.
And his buddy was the guy who did all those hand hammered cymbals.
Yep.
And that guy, Paul Francis, is no longer at Zildjian. And Colin, I think, was trying to get him some work.
Yeah.
But Colin said, what if we hand hammer a mouthpiece?
And Colin's your guy.
Colin's my guy. And
Yeah.
I said, that's crazy. The metal's too thick. It's not going to work. But let's try it. So because they hand hammer a cymbal, it makes it darker, warmer, beautiful sounding.
He said it kind of makes that cymbal a little more dense in areas.
It makes the metal, it changes the metal, the molecular structure. It's harder. So we had to kind of figure out how to do this on a mouthpiece. It took a while. We're sending these blanks that are really heavy up to Massachusetts where Paul is. And we went back and forth for a long time, and we figured out a way to do it. And then we found out, like we were cutting a blank that was unhand hammered, and our program is a 7-star. We're making it. And then we took the hand hammered blank for the first time, put it on, thinking we're making a 7-star. It made an 8-star because the material, the harder the material, actually the easier it cuts. And it made an 8-star.
Yeah.
And so we knew, oh, wow, this must be really different. We played it, and side by side, we can really tell it's an amazing thing. Oh, I should be playing it now since I'm talking to it.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. It's heavy. I want you to be careful about your neck when you put it on. This is a hand-hammered power ring.
And the design of the mouthpiece, is it more forward, a little darker?
I tried to see what I could do, and I put it in a hard rubber shape, and that's why it's so heavy, because it's a big hard rubber shaped mouthpiece. I wanted to put it in as middle possible as I could in our jazz world. Jazz, we use that so loosely because it's so many different styles of music, but so that a straight ahead player could play it just like that. Somebody who liked the old school could play it. Somebody who played some more modern gigs could hit it. And so I really think it's pretty much in the middle there.
And it's only on tenor.
It's only on tenor. I want to do one in alto. I've got a runway of projects. So I want one for myself on alto. I just got to get there. So I always talk about reed placement. If it doesn't feel right in the first time, check that reed. Pop it on again.
Yeah. Just like, it's a great, straight ahead piece that you're getting some body to. You push it the right way, and you're gonna get it to really start piercing if you need it to.
And again, you got to play them to see what's happening from your side.
Yeah.
I first introduced this, it wasn't out yet, and I was on a tour of Australia, and I had a bunch of players play it, and it's the first time I saw other people playing it. They were like, whoa, the subtone, I can subtone so easy on it.
Yeah.
It did really well on that little jaunt.
And what's this that you're playing?
Okay, this is not out as of today. It's done though, and we just got to get the website and all this stuff to get it out.
We're getting a little sneak preview.
Yeah, DVHR Tenor. So what I feel this one does have is that barrel chest from the DV, from that secondary window.
Mm-hmm.
It's got plenty of zip. It's a little darker than the regular DV.
Yeah.
Really fun to play. And the people who've played it so far have loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Loved it. Yeah.
Nice. We covered really the whole spectrum of mouthpieces
Pretty good.
you offer pretty well.
Yeah.
If you're a clarinet player out there and you got this far listening to saxophone mouthpieces, the Shedville clarinet mouthpieces are out there.
We have 4 models now for B-flat clarinet.
Yeah, and that's something. Go to their website, check them out, see if they're for you. If you're around the Minnesota area, that's something we can get here at Schmidt Music for you to try. If there's mouthpieces here that you want to try, that's also something, we regularly have Jody Jazz mouthpieces here for display. And if there's something you're looking forward to trying, send an email to thesaxshop@schmidtmusic.com, and we can work out getting, the specific mouthpieces you want to try in. And we can always recommend some stuff to try too if you're just, stepping into your first, upgraded mouthpiece. If you're a band director out there, I know you've got some mouthpiece kits for band directors. There's a set of jazz mouthpieces in a couple of different sizes depending on the experience of the jazz band. Same thing with classical mouthpieces for the concert band. There's a lot of good stuff to try out there from Jody Jazz, and I hope you guys have the opportunity to try some of these mouthpieces because they all play great. I guess we're getting to the end of our podcast here. Is there anything you want to say to the viewers out there? Or is there anything to look forward to?
It always is, but there's always things coming out. But, let's be grateful that we can play music. It's such a beautiful, pure thing. It's not, politics or religion or anything. It's music. It's just pure, and we're so lucky. And I love being able to be a part of it, and when somebody gets something that I had something to do with and it helps them just play music and enjoy themselves, it's a beautiful thing. So let's be grateful.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jody, for coming out to the store and hanging out with us and doing this podcast. And maybe we'll see some of you. I mean, I'm sure by the time this gets posted, it's going to be, a week or two later. But hopefully we see some of you at the clinic tonight here at the store. Thank you guys for sticking around and listening this whole time. We'll catch you in the next one.